All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to video number 4. We are naming ionic molecules. So when we look at ionic molecules, remember ionic molecules are made out of ions, which are charged atoms. And so we are not going to be looking at covalent. We are not looking at sharing electrons. We're looking at stealing or donating electrons. So step number 1 in naming an ionic molecule. First, we have to identify the elements or the molecules making up the ionic compound. So the names of the elements can be found on the periodic table, or the names of the molecules are on your ion list. And you guys remember how to use the ion list. Positive was on top, negative was on bottom. And that ion list is really going to be your cheat sheet for everything that we have to do here to name ionic compounds. So now that we've identified the different ions from either the ion list or the periodic table, step number 2 is to remember that the cation goes before the anion. Now, this is some vocabulary you guys have not seen, but cation is just the positive ions. Think about cats and how awesome they are, so cats are positive, and anions are negative. So a way to translate this is to say that the positive ion goes before the negative ion. So, for example, if we take a compound like that's not a very good LiOH, okay, we can look for first the positive part of this, because that goes first, and then we have this negative part. So, on our ion list, we see that Li is lithium. And when we look at the bottom, we look for the negative anions. We're going to find that OH is hydroxide. So LiOH is lithium hydroxide. Now, there is one curveball that we have to deal with when we're talking about naming ionic compounds, and those are the transition metals. And transition metals on your periodic table are orange. They're the stuff in the middle. So some transition metals like iron and copper and nickel does this also can have different charges. So iron, for example, here can be +2 or +3, depending on what it's bonding with. Copper can be either +1 or +2, depending on what it is bonding with. So when we have these transition metals that can be two different charges, we put a Roman numeral after the name of the metal to say which charge it has. And if you look at your ion list, you'll see those Roman numerals are already written there for you. So here's another example of what we do with transition metals. We're going to talk about that iron. If I have FeCl2, and I need to write the name of this, I'm going to start with iron because I know that Fe is iron. But now I have to figure out what Roman numeral to put there. And I know that chlorine is a -1 charge, and I've got 2 chlorines, so that means my iron, to cancel that out, had to be +2. So I'm going to put the Roman numeral 2 here, and then put chloride. So FeCl2 is iron 2 chloride. On the other hand, if I have FeCl3, now for this negative ion, I've got 3 of them, so that's a -3 charge. So that means my iron is iron 3. So I'm going to put the Roman numeral 3 after it, and then it's iron 3 chloride. So to summarize our ionic compound naming, remember the positive one, the cation, always goes first. The negative one, the anion, always goes second. You're going to look for those elements and molecules that are ions on your ion list. And if you've got a crazy transition metal, make sure you remember your Roman numerals.